Hi there everybody, welcome to part 1 of our pre-scene analysis for the strategic case study exam in May 2023 and August 2023. This is the in-depth pre-scene analysis that we are presenting for you, that we are going to provide to you. So for those who are new to this channel, my name is Devansh and I am the lead tutor at Finntutors. Finntutors is a CIMA registered tuition provider but also now holds the Global Pass Rate Excellence Award for the year 2022. If you go onto the CGMA Study Hub website and you go to tuition providers, you'll see the Excellence Award being held by only 6-7 tuition providers in the entire world. Finntutors is part of that group now. It has been achieved after a whole lot of care, time, commitment given to creating our courses. And I'm sure you'll find the benefit in going through our detailed pre-scene and all the other material that we present. So in this pre-scene analysis, we are going to speak about the company that CIMA has released, on which the May 2023 and the August 2023 exam is going to be based on. The company's name is called Daistruk. So we have analyzed the pre-scene. We have made annotations to the E3, P3 and F3 syllabus. We have pointed out important study areas and we have explained each part of the pre-scene to you in detail over here. All you have to do is sit back, listen to my explanations, enjoy it like a movie because that's how it's made. It's made so that it's absorbable. It's made so that students are, can really concentrate and also learn and absorb the important areas and ideas, but in an easy, simple, de-stressed environment. That's how we create it. That's how we like to keep it simple. Now, to help students further, we have created something called as our free mini course. Now, the mini course is something that we are offering for free, which includes a whole lot of exam related valuable material. Rest assured, we are CIMA registered tuition providers and we have this Global Pass Rate Excellence Award. So anything that comes from us will be something that adds value to your preparation, will be valuable. The link for the mini course is in the description below. In the description box below, you'll find a link. Just click on that link and it will take you to our mini course page. It's very simple, very well laid out, very well structured because it gives you blueprint explanations. It gives you an introduction to the exam. It gives you our all important industry analysis. It gives you the chance to write a mini mock on which you are going to receive personalized feedback by my professional marking team. It gives you important concepts of E3, P3 and F3 explanations. All of this is for free. The link is in the description below. Just click on that link. It will take you to our mini course. Try it out and 100% you will find it helpful. You will find it something that enriches your learning experience. It's for free. Click on it, try it out. If you don't like it, you don't have to see it again. If you like it, it will definitely add value to your preparation. It will definitely give you direction to prepare for the strategic case study exam. And our method is unique. Our method gets results, and that is why we advocate it. That is why students follow it, and that is why we get our high pass rates. So I welcome you to this pre-scene analysis, part 1. Let us now begin. So first thing we are talking about is the introduction then. Now Daistruk is a quoted company that offers a logistics service. Throughout the entire pre-scene, you are going to see blue text boxes like this, where we have provided our own explanations, where we have provided our own linkages to the E3, P3 and F3 syllabus, where we have expanded on something which we find important and which we know is often tested in the exam. So what we do is we take the actual pre-scene that is released by CIMA and then we put in our own annotations, we put in our own detailing, we put in our own explanations to make it a little bit more pleasant to read, to make it a little bit more presentable, so that even the students enjoy going through it. Because I can create an endless pre-scene, but students should be inclined to read it. Students should be interested to read it, and that's how we make it. With a lot of picture representation, with a lot of annotations, and obviously highlighting important E3, P3 and F3 study areas. Now this detailed pre-scene is created for you so that you know everything there is to know about our company Daistruk, because only then you will be able to feel that you have been given the role of a senior finance manager at this company, and only then eventually you will be able to write a good mock question when we get there, and then eventually do a good job on the exam. So the pre-scene is the starting point to the mock questions, is the starting point of a good, strong, developed base for this exam. So listen to me carefully. Throughout the entire pre-scene, we have highlighted things which we find important. We have linked it to the E3, P3, F3 syllabus areas due to our experience and because of the topics which we know do often come up in the exam. So we point them out to you and we'll create explanations of the same for you step by step. So listen to me very carefully. Every second, every minute of this pre-scene is important. So please pay attention. Daistruk is a quoted company that offers a logistics service. Now for those who have done my industry analysis, will already know what the logistics service industry or what the logistics service market is like in the real world. So you're already in that zone, you're already in that mindset, and you can start to relate from now itself. Those who have not done my industry analysis, I will request you to first do it. It adds incredible value to your preparation before touching the pre-scene. Now over here, I saw an important word which said quoted company. It's information, right? Now quoted means listed on the stock exchange. Often in the strategic case study exam, they'll tell us whether it's a quoted company, unquoted company. Because they've said quoted, I know that because I'm listed on the stock exchange, I will have good liquidity, I will have access to capital for growth if I need to raise it, and I'll be a visible big company. The disadvantages are that there are obviously reporting requirements, government scrutiny, which you will have to pay heed to. Otherwise, there can be huge fines, penalties. So from the onset, I know that I am a quoted company. Couple advantages, couple disadvantages I will keep in mind. Because I am a quoted company, it's important that I publish my financial statements which are true and fair. It will also be important to present profitability ratios, lender ratios, investor ratios, because the shareholders and the market as a whole will read into these ratios and judge the performance of the company. So what are these ratios? This is part of your F3 syllabus, financial indicators of success, non-financial indicators of success. This is something that is there in your F3 syllabus, and that is why I have pointed it out over here. So you see, at each stage, when we discuss something, we link it to your E3, P3, F3 syllabus areas and tell you how they can come up in the exam, why it's being discussed like I just did. So pay attention to the topics that I raise. They're not just random topics. They're important aspects which we know are tested or can come up. So we don't want you to be blank. We don't want you to be, we want you to be prepared on these topics in your own words. That is why we are highlighting them for you. They told us we are a logistics company. Now we already know the background of this from the industry analysis, but let's note that some factors we need to consider for any service-oriented company. Specifically, a service-oriented logistics company have been listed here. So if my company Daistruk wants to do well in the market, if my company Daistruk wants to benefit in this market, it will have to have a good list of factors such as efficiency, customer service, technology, security. It will have to itself be financially stable. It will need to have good reputation, and it will need to have a superior warehouse management system, load tracking system, customer delivery system. All of this has been spoken about in the industry analysis, and we are going to speak about it further as we dive deeper into the pre-scene and figure out how Daistruk runs its operations. How do we manage our operations? Do we have technology embedded? Are we investing in security? Do we have good financial stability? What is our reputation in the market? All of these are questions which you will be able to ask, because I have listed them down as important factors over here when we go to actually speak about our company Daistruk deeper into the pre-scene. But for any company which wants to do well in the logistics business, it will have to be efficient, good technology support, good security facility, good reputation, good inventory warehouse management system. All of these are important for you to survive and do well in the logistics market, and this is true for our company as well. Hence, I have stated it for you. Moving on, you are a senior manager in Daistruk's finance function. I already know that they have given me the role and the job of a senior finance manager. And because they say senior finance manager, now think about your E3 roles in an organization or organizational roles. You will know that at the senior level or the corporate level, you need to look at long-term strategic issues, which means long-term decisions, strategy-oriented decisions. So your audience is going to be the board of directors. And to give a satisfactory answer, understanding the scale of your operation is very important. Now, if you don't know what your business is, what the industry of your business is like, how can you be a good senior finance manager? How will you be able to suggest? How will you be able to show the path? It's not possible. So the pre-scene is obviously important, but it becomes even more important in the strategic level, because without knowing the company, you cannot give strategic direction to the company. So your role is that of a senior finance manager. It includes long-term focus, product-related decision support, diversification, long-term finance, advising the board of directors, stakeholder management. So if I pick up any one of these topics that has been listed here, you will see that they correspond directly to the blueprint areas or the I can statements which CIMA has identified. Eventually, all of this is part of your E3, P3 and F3 syllabus areas. So for me to be a good senior finance manager, I will need to know the industry of Daistruk. I will need to know the operations of Daistruk, yes, but I will also need good, sound technical knowledge of E3, P3 and F3 to provide that support, to provide my business acumen plus my technical intelligence to answer a question that they raise for us. Now, obviously, I'm highlighting the points for you, but we will also be creating mock questions on important topics which are exactly like the exam, and we'll be testing you on them as well. So it's not only just speaking, it's you practicing, us marking and showing you the way. But for all of this, the first step is knowing your company, which is why the pre-scene analysis is very important. Now you report directly to the board and advise on special projects and strategic matters. Because we report to the board, deal with strategy, everything related to strategy is part of your E3 syllabus. E3 is the most important pillar of this exam. Nothing in E3 can be left out during your revision. Remember that. Moving on, Daistruk is based in Roundland, a developed country that has an active and well-regulated stock exchange. So they're telling me that my company is situated in a fictional country which is called Roundland. And this country is a developed country, which means a developed economy. So let's think. Developed country, developed economy. And it has an active, well-regulated stock exchange. Now, all of this is drawing a parallel to any developed economy in the real world. So you can take North America, Europe as a developed country, developed economy. What does this mean? Daistruk is located in a developed economy. So it opens up advantages of developed economies, such as good infrastructure, good workforce, skilled workforce, and customers having good spending power. Let's make a note here. Roundland is a developed country or economy. This means businesses have the interest and the money to spend on innovative and technologically developed third-party logistic providers to deliver their goods to end users, which means I am situated in an economy which has the culture, which has the innovation, which has the technology and eventually the money to recognize third-party logistic providers as important parts in the final good delivery, in the goods delivery to the end customers. So this tells me, and also I've spoken about this in the industry analysis, that North America, Europe are big markets in the real world, which tells me that the developed countries are big markets in the real world. They have, in these countries, companies, big companies already have established huge bases, and it's possible because people have the interest, the money, they invest in innovation, technology, and are using third-party logistic providers. So for me, as a logistic provider, as a third-party logistic provider, Daistruk, this is an advantage for us, right? Because I am already situated in a country that is developed. I am already situated in a country that has where businesses will have the interest, the money to spend on third-party logistic providers. So the demand conditions of my current economy will be good, will be strong. That is why Roundland is my base. And when I speak about demand conditions, the Porter's diamond is the topic that I picture in my mind, which is part of your E3 syllabus. And as you can see, every discussion is important because we relate it to E3, P3 and F3 while explaining parts of our company to you. Roundland's currency is the R dollars. Roundland requires companies to prepare the financial statements in accordance with the IFRS. So some generic introductory information given to us, but from this introduction itself, we have learned so much. That's the nature of our pre-scene. That's the detailing of our pre-scene. So you just have to sit back, listen to my explanations, and ensure that you are absorbing it slowly but steadily. Because if you've done a detailed pre-scene in this way, you have revised important topics, plus you know everything about your company. So you have a great base to start writing mock questions. That is why we invest so much time into the pre-scene. It's not like I like to make these blue boxes and I like to highlight everything in yellow and I like to speak and I'm here and I created this pre-scene. It's important. That is why we invest this time. That is why we make it, interactive. That is why we make it with all these colors and all of that, so that it remains in your mind, so that when required you can remember them. So this is why the pre-scene is important. Now we move to logistics as a industry. Now guess what? They have given you an industry aspect, industry detail from a very from the very perspective which is relevant for Daistruk. But guess what? You have already done an extra industry analysis, industry study with me before you even started with the pre-scene. So you have great ideas in your mind, you have great, you can make great relations as part of this pre-seen industry aspect that they have given us. So let's begin. They've given it to us, so it's obviously our job to analyze it. But with that, with my extra industry analysis done, this background that they have given will make more sense and you'll be able to relate in an even better way. So let's start. Now, logistics is a very broad term that encompasses the process of managing the flow of goods, ensuring that they reach their intended destination on time. Simple. Logistics includes the planning, implementation, and control required to ensure the safe and efficient management of that flow, as well as the physical transportation of materials and products. So, planning, implementation, and control, keeping it safe and efficient, and then physically transport those materials or products, whatever is in question. So over here, logistics would involve planning, implementation, control. Okay. Safe and efficient management. So safety and efficiency also needs to be looked at. And then the physical transportation as well, whatever you use, roadways, airways, railways, waterways, whatever mode you're using, physical transportation also needs to be considered. Now, all of these factors indicate towards a capital intensive industry because a logistics provider has to do so much. When all of these factors have to be done by one company and that company is being contracted to take care of the logistics till the end customer, it's quite a capital intensive job or activity. It's not like tomorrow I want to open up a logistics business and I'm transporting thousands of mobile phones from one place to another. It's not that easy, right? There is a whole lot of planning, whole lot of safety aspect, efficiency aspect, and then finally the transportation aspect, which I need to look at. So an entire system will be needed, an entire process will be needed. So from the very onset, I know that this is an industry which is capital intensive. This brings in your capital structure related questions. So when we actually finish this industry aspect and then start to speak about Daistruk deeper into the pre-scene, we'll firstly try to understand as part of the financials what our current financial structure is. How much debt, how much equity, we'll tell you all of that. But then scenarios such as raising new debt, raising new equity, raising finance through different other forms of finance can be something that does often come up in the strategic case study exam. So your capital structure related topics from F3, where we are speaking about equity finance, debt finance, acquisitions, when we are speaking about these aspects, your F3 syllabus becomes important, and this we have identified as a top issue, which means a high probability of a capital structure related question coming up in the exam, which we will surely test you in a couple of ways in our mock questions as well. But from the onset, we are identifying this as a top issue, and throughout our pre-scene analysis, we'll identify 10, 11, 12 top issues which we feel have the chance of coming up and which we feel have been coming up in the past and which we feel are relevant to Daistruk and can come up. Now, if you look at the highlights that we have made as well, these are not random yellow colors that I have put. If you only read the highlights which I have made, they in itself will also make sense. So the entire pre-scene has been created after a whole lot of time and effort. It's not that we woke up one morning and decided to do this pre-scene analysis and everything fell into place. Time, experience, effort, everything has gone into creating this experience for you. Let's move on. Most logistics systems involve the following. So from the supplier, it comes to us, inbound logistics, you internally handle it, and then it goes to the final customers. This is how the general logistics simplified version works as. So easier for you would be to remember this diagram. It comes in from the manufacturer, or it comes in from the supplier to your warehouse where you internally manage it, store it, and then it goes to the customer. To give you some technical terms, there will be inbound logistics, then your internal logistics, and then outbound logistics. That diagram has been put into technical words over here. So inbound logistics focus on the procurement of goods. So you receive the goods, you check the goods, then you store the goods if necessary and update your inventory records. The internal logistics involves handling the goods within the entity once they have come to your possession. This is managing the goods and maintaining your inventory records, which means placing them properly, placing them in a place that is efficiently and easily accessible. Then there is outbound logistics, is movement of goods to the customer. So the warehouse picking from the warehouse, then packing it, dispatching it, and recording that it's been dispatched. Now outbound logistics also include reverse logistics, which means it goes to the customer, but then it comes back for some reason. This can be maybe the good is defective, or it can come back for recycling of products or packaging. For any reason, it can come back. Defective packaging, defective good, for recycling purposes, it comes back. Now, identifying the costs of quality for this industry is important, as margins are going to be tight. In our industry analysis, we have learned that the major factor that companies compete on is going to be the price. Now, if because of your fault, because of your company's fault, there is a fault in the packaging or the goods have been harmed and you deliver them to the customer, they are bound to come back. If they come back, you have to reprocess everything, the cost of coming back, the cost of recording, the cost of replacing, all of that is large, which is going to eat into your own margins, which is not good for any company. So identifying the quality costs, which is there in your E3 syllabus, prevention costs, appraisal costs, internal failure costs, external failure costs from your E3 syllabus will be important to identify and stick to them once they have been identified. Also, recycling is being spoken of. Now, this is generic background that they've given you. As we go deeper into the pre-scene, we are going to try to see what my company, specifically Daistruk, is doing if goods are recycled. So how are we dealing with returned products? How is the recycling facilitated? These are important questions to ask. When we start speaking about our company, we'll have a lookout for that. Because nowadays, big global quoted companies or big quoted companies like ours, they've already mentioned this, are in the limelight. So we want to make sure that what are we doing for our corporate social responsibility? What is our stance on CSR? Because we're speaking about recycling, right? So what is our corporate social responsibility like? What are our sustainability targets like? Are we thinking about the environment? This is something that we must keep in our mind, because the CSR and the stances of CSR and sustainability are part of your E3 syllabus, which we cannot overlook. Moving on, each stage in the flow of goods depends upon the maintenance and communication of accurate information. The topic of information is clearly being presented to us over here. If you don't have good information, you will not know where the goods are, when they came in, when they have to go out. All of that, where the customer's address is, none of that you will know if there is no good circulation of information. The information data aspect has been heavily spoken about in E3 and in P3 specifically. That is why I am specifying on it. Logistics requires the effective communication of information within the entity, and between the entity and its suppliers and customers both. So the flow of information is going to be vital in this industry. Data will be a huge asset and risk area for this business, both. It's a huge asset if we use it well, and we are going to give you a supplementary reading on big data and how logistic companies are using big data deeper into the pre-scene. But right now they've given it to us, so we'll just analyze it. So data will be a huge asset and a risk area as well for this business. Huge asset because if you use it well, it's to your benefit. Risk area because if you don't protect it, big issue. Primary issue will be of privacy. So privacy of all of this internal, external, customer data, your supplier data, manufacturing data, all of that will be something that will be of your primary concern, mainly privacy. Real world situations, how data leaks have caused companies to pay millions against lawsuits where they've not kept data safe or unauthorized access to data has been gained. So identifying risks and managing these risks is important in your SCS exam, because one of the roles of a good senior finance manager is to identify risks and to mitigate or manage those risks. What I will ask you to do is, specifically for the strategic case study exam, keep a list and keep making a list of the risks which your company can face. I'll tell you how we are going to use that list deeper into the pre-scene, but make sure you're making a list of risks. Over here there is privacy risk or data risk, data leak risk, whatever you want to name it in your own words. Identifying risk and management of risks is part of your P3 syllabus, and that is why I have brought it up over here for you. Because we are speaking about data, when we go deeper into the pre-scene, I want to figure out, am I using the data that is being generated to find meaningful references? Am I using this data to the benefit of my company? So your data analysis, data mining topics come into the picture here, which is again part of your E3 syllabus. I'm going to give you an example and a supplementary reading on big data once we go deeper into the pre-scene. But right now, these are questions you should be asking. These are ideas that you should have in your mind. Now, the scale and the complexity of logistics varies between entities, depending on their size and the nature of the business. For example, a manufacturer such as Malter Motors has very different needs from a retailer such as Maddox Supermarkets. Now over here they've used two examples of a automotive company, automobile manufacturing company, and a supermarket or a consumer good company. Malter Motors is a global manufacturing company that has 52 factories spread across 31 countries. So it's a global company. You can see the image, for example, that they've given over here with a line of cars. All of this will have to is mass produced. So it has to be shipped to other factories as and when required. So for example, all of Malta's petrol engines are manufactured at a factory in Eastland. Now, if they want to sell these cars in Roundland, obviously they will have to be moved from Eastland to Roundland. So logistics is involved. Now, this logistics can be something which Malta does by themselves, where they can have their own warehouse or own stocking yard and own, trucks or everything that they do by themselves. Or it can be given or outsourced to somebody like us, Daistruk, where we carry these vehicles for them from Eastland to Roundland, where we facilitate this entire process. That is where logistic companies come in. So just to give you an example, I took Malta, as the discussion here. So the engine factory's inbound logistics focus on the procurement of engine parts and materials. Internal logistics manages the inventory of parts and materials, supplying the factory when required. And the outbound logistics stores the completed engines, shipping them to Malter factories that assemble cars. So the petrol engines are manufactured at a factory in Eastland. All of the engines are manufactured in Eastland. Now to actually make it a car, those engines will have to be taken to their main factory in Roundland, for example. So logistics is involved. That's what we are trying to tell you. Each of Malter's factory has its own logistics system. So Malter has its own logistics system, interacting with third parties and with other factories in the group as appropriate. Malter's logistics are complicated by the need to ship often heavy and expensive components and assemblies between factories. Now, moving of engines is not light. If it's not light, means it's a valuable component, means it's heavy, means it needs a lot of care, attention, so it's not going to be cheap. Malter's cars must then be shipped to dealers in many countries where Malter cars are sold. So once the car is ready, then it has to be shipped to all parts of the world where the car is going to be sold. Now, one of these companies can be seen as our focus market. Let me say that. Because identifying the need of global manufacturers or service providers and catering to them, or developing a system which works for them and is more efficient than their own logistics system, will be the only reason why Malter will even choose to outsource it to us, to employ Daistruk rather than doing it themselves. So we will need to find the focus market. We will need to find the product innovation or service innovation to suit them. And as discussed in our industry analysis, companies are innovating and creating new pricing structures to bring clients on board. So specialization to their need. And to do all of this, a good, solid external market analysis will be important to stay ahead of your competition. This brings in our E3 syllabus because the external market topics are a chapter in E3. So external market analysis, your Pestel, Porter's 5 forces, the Porter's diamond, these become important aspects to revise from the E3 syllabus. Same way, there is an example of Murdoch's supermarkets. Now, Murdoch's supermarkets is one of the largest supermarket companies in Roundland. It has 1,270 stores and 37 warehouses in the country. So what will be inbound logistics for Murdoch's? This will be deliveries by food manufacturers to our warehouse. Perishable goods such as milk are delivered directly to the shop. Internal logistics will be to manage these goods using lorries to replenish shops with goods when in its warehouses. And most sales are direct to customers who collect their own goods. Some sales are made through Murdoch's website, and so there is an outbound logistic function that handles deliveries to customers' homes as well. So you are seeing how the logistic requirement is different based upon the requirement, based upon the focus, based upon the need of that particular company. So logistics has a wide range of uses. Continuously we are speaking about inbound logistics, outbound logistics, internal logistics. Now inbound and outbound logistics is something that relates to the value chain analysis. Now, strong value chain analysis will have to be prepared in collaboration of the business in consideration. Your client, whatever you choose your client to be, you'll have to sit down with them as a logistics company and figure out what are the main parts of their value chain, what are the functions which are adding value, what are the functions which are not adding value, what are the functions which are most important for their business. So strong relation will have to be maintained. Creating and complying with strong KPIs internally as well. And also reporting them to the business you are in contract with can be seen as important in this market. Because if you keep showing the business that, okay, this was a key performance indicator, which I had set internally of 0 defects in packaging, I have met it. The business will also be sure that, okay, this is the right company to be in partnership with. So internally KPIs are important, and externally to report it to your contract business as Daistruk will also be important. So your KPIs, your critical success factors are part of your E3 syllabus. See how I'm bringing them in. Businesses spend a vast amount on logistics. We already know that the logistics market is huge and it's growing. The total cost incurred by Roundlandian businesses for 31st December 2022 has been estimated to be 226 billion R dollars. So it is evident from this information and from my industry analysis that this is a huge market with good growth opportunities. You should know what the major trends are. You should know how you want to compete. You should know where you want to situate yourself, which I have spoken about in my industry analysis. And those who have gone through it already must be having light bulbs in their mind, which is the reason why the industry analysis was first done with you. Now this 226 billion, that they have identified can be broken down this way. So logistics costs by function. Transportation takes majority of your cost. Inventory carrying, warehouse storage, and then admin expenses. So transportation costs remain the dominant consideration as they account for more than half of the logistic costs. So if you're going to spend $100 on logistics, your $58, you'll be spending on transportation itself. So they are costs related to moving goods between where they have been manufactured and where they are distributed and consumed. Moving them from one place to another. That's transportation. This is the major cost. So this will be the cost that you will have to analyze. This will be the cost that you will have to try to cut. Because if you cut your costs, you can offer better prices to your customer companies, and eventually they'll choose you to handle the logistics, right? Then there is inventory carrying costs. These are variable costs of maintaining inventory in the warehouse. Costs of holding the goods, such as your capital costs, your labor costs, warehouse costs, depreciation costs, as well as the physical handling of goods, including your packaging, labeling. That's inventory carrying cost, which is the next most important costs. Out of $100, 23 is inventory carrying costs. Then there is warehouse costs. This is the fixed cost. You own the warehouse. You bought the warehouse, that's your cost. Or you've leased the warehouse, that's your cost. Maintenance related to that warehouse, safety, security, all of that will also be warehouse cost. Now, last, a small percentage is the admin cost, including managerial overheads such as customer service, receiving orders, processing orders, managing the workforce. They also include information technologies such as computer equipment and software. Very important, because these admin costs are now going to increase a little bit because more and more businesses want to use data, want to use IT, want to use your data mining technologies, big data storage. So that will incur costs. But the benefits that it will give you will be huge, because big data and data analysis, data mining gives you ways which you have unheard of, unthought of, by using the data that you already have to generate meaningful relations and to generate meaningful information which can help your company cut costs and work in a more efficient way. So admin costs are something that are going to increase in this modern world a little bit, but the benefit that they give you will be huge. So if you're doing a cost benefit analysis, there will be a cost, but the benefit of using this data is all of us know using data and then converting it to make sales is the way many businesses in the entire world are functioning, and logistics is no different. Next, we are having a discussion on an in-house or an outsourced logistics function. I already gave you an example of it when we were speaking about the Murdoch supermarkets, and when we were also speaking about our Malter Motors, I gave you the example. But now as part of the discussion as well, they've given a separate subheading. Now, logistics can be managed in-house or it can be outsourced to a contractor. Very few large organizations manage their own logistics. Their job, for example, Malter Motors' job is to make the best possible car. Their job is not to transport that car from one place to another. That's not their core competency. So what they do is they outsource. I'm just giving you an example. So all large organizations generally will outsource the logistics parts because it's more efficient, and outsource to a specialist rather than doing it themselves. So they understand this and hence they outsource this aspect. Now it is possible to outsource some or all elements of logistics depending on what the organization chooses. So there are different types. First is 1PL. A first party logistics provider is a business that manages its own logistics. So if I manage my own logistics as a business, I am called a 1PL. A second party logistics provider, 2PL, handles the transportation element of the flow of goods, acting on the instructions of a client. The client retains responsibility for managing its logistics. So in a 2PL, the difference is that the transportation element, only transportation, is handled by the logistics provider. The everything else, client retains the responsibility. A third party logistics provider provides a wide range of services associated with logistics, which includes warehousing to delivery. So inbound, internal and delivery, that's 3PL. And a 4PL extends the 3PL model by adding responsibility for strategy underlying to logistics, which means creating the strategy underlying logistics. How should the logistics work? How the logistics need to work? What is the most efficient way of the logistics to work? Some 4L providers employ external 3PL companies to provide transportation and warehousing. They'll only do the strategy part and then they'll subcontract 3PL companies to take care of transportation and warehousing. So there are 4 types. 1PL, where the business manages everything by itself. 2PL, the logistics provider only deals with the transportation aspect. 3PL, where you start to deal with warehousing to delivery. And 4PL, 3PL plus strategy and logistics. Strategy of logistics becomes 4PL. So these are 4 types of outsourcing which businesses go for. Most large businesses use some variation of the 3PL arrangement because 3PL has following advantages. 3PL, there is an expertise that logistics company is going to be an expert, so it will be more efficient, it will reduce your costs. 3PL providers may use their own warehouses and vehicles, so the client does not have to invest in property, plant and equipment. 3PL providers offer flexibility. If you want to add capacity, reduce capacity, you can easily do that. 3PL providers can resolve problems affecting to the flow of goods without the need to distract clients' management teams. The management team of the business will only focus on the business because logistics is already looked by somebody else. 3PL providers can take responsibility for managing legal requirements such as licenses and safety requirements. So because of all of these advantages, many large businesses simply outsource and use some variation of a 3PL arrangement. These advantages that we have mentioned on paper, yes, they all look good, but they may not always be realized in practice, which we have spoken about in our industry analysis as well as part of the restraining factors. But they've given an example saying that there can be seasonal variations in demands for storage space. And so, 3PL providers may not always be able to offer flexibility at busy times of the year. For example, it's Christmas and the manufacturer wants to buy more capacity from you. But you don't have that capacity because you're already working on optimum level, plus you've taken up extra orders from somebody else. So you might not always be able to offer flexibility. Just an example. So these are all driving factors for my industry and company. If I look at the 3PL market advantages that they have given us, they're all pretty much driving factors why everybody is choosing 3PL providers. A keen eye for changing external market trends, competition analysis will be very important in this industry. So segmentation, external market, which I've already spoken about, becomes important here. That's your E3 syllabus. Remember, we are speaking about transportation, movement of goods here and there, involves using non-renewable resources, involves the use of petrol, oil, all of that. Because of that, our industry is inherently criticized for being non-sustainable. We must see what our company is doing to stand out. This could be an area where we differentiate and set ourselves apart by having a unique mission and vision. As a 3PL provider, we can try to do something different where we are committing to sustainability. Our stance on CSR will also be important, which I've spoken about. Sustainability initiatives, what you're doing back for the environment, CSR, E3 syllabus comes into the picture here because our industry is one which is inherently been criticized for harming the environment. So we spoke about in-house versus outsourced. Now we are speaking about shared versus dedicated 3PL providers. See, we are focusing on 3PL. We are focusing on the 3PL model. Some clients negotiate exclusive arrangements for the use of 3PL resources. Exclusive, which means only I will use your services, for example. This is called dedicated 3PL. These dedicated arrangements grant exclusive use of a specific asset belonging to the 3PL provider. That could mean that a number of vehicles will be painted in the client's colors and will be used on that client's business, or a warehouse could be set aside for that client's use only. So it's a dedicated 3PL provision of this kind of service. Now, developing this kind of dedicated service for my business, Daistruk, could be, and gaining long-term contracts will be seen as important because then they get used to my service, then they see my efficiency, and then they will not want to leave. So, long-term contracts are always more beneficial. In our industry analysis, we have learned about the need to maintain and develop relationships by offering new products or services, in this case, better pricing, better efficiency. And if you have good dedicated 3PL, let's say, situations or contracts, it can be really beneficial for your company. But they're telling us that there are two types, shared as well as dedicated. The dedicated example has been given here, which we are speaking about. On the other hand, shared agreements do not guarantee the exclusive use of assets. It's shared. So 4, 5, 6 providers are using that 3PL company. So the 3PL provider is free, for example, to use a vehicle to carry several part loads for different clients. So let's say in my truck, I have 3 parts. All 3 parts, there is different loads for different clients. A warehouse could have also areas set aside for different clients within the same building. So I have one large warehouse which I have divided into parts. Different clients, different goods are stored over there. That's a shared agreement. Dedicated agreements may be more cost effective than shared for companies that have high volumes of goods. Because if you don't have high volumes, then there is no point of a dedicated arrangement because that truck will go half empty. What's the point? You'll be paying for not full capacity. So dedicated arrangements are cost effective when there are high volume of goods. They may also be beneficial for clients who have very specialized needs. If they have a specialized need, specialized request, then they might have to go for a dedicated arrangement. Now, managing relationships with this stakeholder will be very, very important for my business. Whether it's a dedicated arrangement, whether it's a shared arrangement, managing the relationship with your client and your related stakeholders will become very, very important for any business, because how you manage your relationship defines the culture of your business. So stakeholder management, Mendelow's matrix, part of your E3 syllabus, becomes an important consideration over here. Now speaking about storage type. Logistics management usually requires warehousing or other forms of storage that permit goods to be stored safely until they are required at the next stage of their journey. Naturally, you will require a warehouse, a place to store that goods safely. The number, the size, and the location of storage facilities must be decided. Storage sites must be large enough to provide sufficient capacity. They must also be accessible to whatever mode of transport the deliveries are going to be made through, whether that be road, rail, sea, or air. Locations can also affect transportation cost due to the distances between the nodes. So selecting your warehouse space is a very important decision. So the need to select, buy, firstly select, then buy, then maintain, and then efficiently run that warehouse is the internal logistics, is a core competency for any logistics provider. Because I don't want to situate my warehouse in a very far place where I'm incurring lots of costs of moving those goods, which eventually will be charged to the client business or to the customer business, and our quotation will be more expensive than somebody else because they did a better job in selecting the location of their warehouse. So can we use data in this process of selecting, then buying, then maintaining, and then efficiently running a warehouse? Data can be used in this process, right? Past data, historical data, your company's past data, all of that can be used to figure out in which place buying a new warehouse can be beneficial for our business. There can be a situation, they can ask you, we are going to buy a new warehouse because we have decided to expand our operations. How will we raise finance? That raising finance is a top issue. I already spoke about it. Second, what will be when selecting this warehouse, what should we keep in mind? So your discussion is now ready because of this detailed pre-scene analysis that we are doing. How to write an answer, what answers will fetch high marks. Again, my job. Right now, we are focusing on understanding the company but. Storage facilities must be configured and equipped to handle the goods that will flow through them. For example, goods are often carried on wooden pallets so that they can be lifted by forklifts. Example image has been shown to you over here. That usually requires warehouses to have loading docks that enable the forklift to drive into cargo trailers when loading or unloading. The main storage space in the warehouse will then have to permit free and safe movement of forklifts so that the pallets can be placed in storage or picked for dispatch. The word I'm focusing on here is safe, because when machines are involved, safety becomes an issue and humans are driving that forklift. So a clear safety risk can arise over here. So I hope you've begun curating a list of risks that our company can face. Everything related to risks, risk management, dealing with risk management framework is part of your P3 syllabus and an important area. Once it's been stored in your warehouse, there can be different types of racks which can be installed to make the best possible use of the available space. Taking account of the weight of a typical pallet. For instance, electronic goods are less heavier. Warehouses can be automated, reducing the need for staff by using conveyor belts. Example image again has been shown to you. By using these conveyor belts, you can reduce the need for staff. It is also possible to use robots to pick and then carry goods, placing them in the assigned storage location or preparing them for dispatch. This type of automation is frequently associated with the fulfillment of online sales. Dispatches might comprise a single item or a small number of different products picked from a large warehouse that stores many different products. So this further shows the nature of our industry, the need for investment and cutting costs to stay ahead of your competitors is the need of the hour. What are you doing in terms of research and development? What are you doing to cut costs for yourself and eventually transfer that cost to your customer business? Can be the reason why business chooses you rather than your competitors. And from our industry analysis, we know that big companies, the trend in this market is that big companies are investing in research development to cut their costs and serve their customers in a better way. So we will have access to huge quantity of customer data as mentioned in the information above. Privacy of this information must be of primary concern because you have all of this customer data, you have all of the data of your customers because you stored everything in your warehouse and the final sale needs to be, final product needs to reach the customer. So you know where the customer is, how your delivery is going to be scheduled. You have all of that private information. So privacy is important, which we have spoken about. That's a risk. But because we are speaking about risk related to data, your cyber security framework and a systematic cyber security management team could be the next step for our business as we continue to grow. So cyber security framework, your cyber security management, the risks and the types of cyber security issues that occur. Another top issue which we have identified, which is regularly coming up in strategic case study exams. So the cybersecurity framework, the need for an IT director, the need for the different types of cybersecurity issues, internal audit, internal control systems relating to cybersecurity, P3 syllabus. This is hugely coming up, and we will again, as we go deeper into the pre-scene, see what Daistruk's management structure is like. We'll see what Daistruk's IT systems are like, and we'll give you a deeper analysis. But right now, this came to my mind, so it's my job to point it out to you. So 2 top issues have been identified so far. These are non-negotiable. Pretty much all topics that I identify are important, but the ones which are top issues are non-negotiable and you need to have a good understanding of the same from your P3 syllabus. Moving on, many products require specialized facilities for handling and storage. For example, liquids require tankers and storage tanks. Grains and other crops require their own equipment for their collection and their storage. Different types of goods can also raise safety concerns. You can have flammable or toxic material, or you can have hygiene issues with goods that are intended for human consumption. They might expire. So all of this needs to be taken account by a logistics company. So what internal controls have we put in place to avoid any of these hygiene issues or safety issues or storage issues occurring for my business? Because some sort of controls, some sort of checks will be needed internally. So the different types of controls that can be put in place, the way of controlling internal controls with the help of a study model. For example, the COSO internal control model can be revised here. So the different types of controls and the COSO model for internal control can be revised here. This is part of our P3 syllabus area. This brings me to the end of part 1 of our pre-scene analysis. To access our full pre-scene analysis, you can sign up to one of our study courses by visiting our SCS page, finntutors.com/SCS, or you can go to the Finntutors page, click the courses option there, and you can scroll down to the SCS, see our different study options. You can directly email us as well on help@finntutors.com if you have any questions, and we will definitely help you out. Now, this pre-scene has been created in such a way that it's easy for you to absorb, that it's easy for you to understand, and that it's easy for you to follow as I explain each part. Now, because of such a good pre-scene analysis, the students' transition to the mock writing is easier, and eventually they do well on their exams because of our mock questions as well. And that is why Finntutors has been recognized as and has received, the Global Pass Rate Excellence Award. If you go onto the CIMA Study Hub website, click on the tuition providers, and you will see Finntutors at the very top with only 5 other tuition providers in the world that have this recognition, which further means that our pre-scene, our mock questions are eventually getting results. So if you want to get those same results, sign up to one of our study courses, because we will give you all the steps that you need to do well. We will give you all the processes that you need to do well. We will give you all the direction that you need to follow. But then following it will be something that is your job. Following it will be something that you need to do, and it is bound to get you the results. I hope you have found part 1 helpful. In part 2 is the longer part, which has close to 2.5 hours, because the processes of the company are discussed. A very detailed financial analysis is made, and a whole lot of other detail is added in part 2. So I hope to see you on one of our study courses. Thank you for being here for part 1.